Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this conversation, Clocks, Accelerating the Future with AI. In this conversation, we have interesting speakers. You can meet them in the WOBA app, learn more about them. But here we have David Jimenez from Softec, Alex Maza from Kavak, Estefania Capdeville from the Digital Transformation Agency, Mexico government, and Gordon Whitehouse from Pacto. So in the past year, I've seen AI, this technology, to move from like a buzzword to becoming something like the business backbone in different companies, in different of organizations. But even yet, wide adoption remains uneven. And we will talk today about why. What is it that keeps organizations from public and from private organizations scaling and addressing their AI goals? And we will talk about leadership and culture and talent and skills and how data is the real fuel for this transformation. And finally, we will speak a little bit about how this technology and if we do collaborations across North America, we can actually make AI the real driver of competitiveness in the region. So in the interest of time, I will start diving in already with here. And we will start with Gordon. So, I got you over there. But from your perspective, why hasn't AI adoption accelerated as much as we will expect? What's been the biggest blocker that is holding back this real transformation from happening?
Yeah, sure. So I don't think we've moved past AI as a buzzword in many cases. And so I think we're still trying to figure out what does AI mean for that specific industry sector, that specific industry team. And oftentimes, the risk-reward of trading a human process that's been long-standing, that works even despite its known limitations, to transitioning into a new era comes with sometimes risks that aren't always measurable. And so that transition requires really like a rethinking of these processes from the top down and having people who can see the areas in those processes that are innovatable, right? Because oftentimes processes are spanning cross teams, and some of these teams are highly regulated compliance teams, legal teams that just aren't equipped with understanding the risk of change. I think to push that forward, leaders need to begin to think about how to incentivize things like process decommissions, how to look for a team beyond just engineers and data scientists, but almost automation analysts, automation architects that really know how to find the right tool or process or fix for a given problem. Because, at least in my opinion, of doing workflow automations for a long time, it's not always AI. I mean, sometimes you may be able to fix something with a lower power tool, but still maintain the same result.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you very much. And I believe you're right about all these components. And so, Estefania, like Gordon has just highlighted how these different factors, like compliance, for instance, can really slow down innovation even when the technology is ready. And I think in government, in public sector, you also face the same pressures, sometimes even more. So it is natural for governments to be cautious about adoption of AI. How do you overcome this risk aversion so that decision makers can actually be willing to bet on AI, on these technologies, and find the value they can bring to the citizens?
Well, I think as governments, we have to see technology as a tool, not as technology of itself. We, in the agency, we try to not do technology as an end of itself, but do technology as a tool to achieve justice, to achieve democracy. So when we talk about artificial intelligence in the public sector specifically, we, of course, are really cautious about how it is being used, how it's being regulated by other governments in the world, not only in Mexico, but how it's being regulated everywhere. And we try to use AI just as when it is proved to be the most efficient tool for a public problem that we're trying to solve. For example, we're currently working with AI in chatbots to better serve the citizenship. And it is AI, it's only inside that chatbot. It's not like, we don't have like an AI program to implement AI in all public government procurement. So we see the AI tool as a new tool to achieve the same goals that we've always had. So that's how we try always to talk to other public servants when they show how afraid they are of using AI, of how afraid they are of how AI is going to change, for example, the governments. We try to see it just as a new tool that can help us better achieve the same goals that we have always had.
Thank you. But I mean, I know that you are betting importantly on this, and the leadership that you have been, and also in the private sector, kind of sets the tone and promotes this culture that aligns with this strategic vision of how adopting these type of technologies and getting value out of them. But moving beyond, organizations are made of people, and not only people, but their skills, their roles, their willingness to change sometimes. So now we need to talk about talent and what are kind of the challenges on building an AI-ready workforce. So, David, coming to you, many companies think that they can simply hire AI talent from the market. Why would you think, if so, that this is short-sighted, and that what kind of approaches have you seen work better to address reskilling, most importantly, at scale? That is the challenge now.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I think, first we need to acknowledge that we've been talking about it probably since COVID, but the shortage of talent it's a reality. There's not enough talent, and there's tons of data. It's expected that in the US next year there's going to be something like 1.6 million vacancies of AI talent, and there's going to be like 600K of supply. And you can go through Europe, Germany is another case, and even in Latin America we see it. There's just not enough talent. The other thing, there's not enough talent, but this is very probably gonna worsen before it gets better. With the adoption of these new technologies, I think that gap from demand and supply is just gonna open up for the next, 5 years. And then the other thing is that this specialized talent is asking for premium talent, asks for premium compensation, right? And that's a reality that every company is seeing out there, right? You have, it's an uneven race in terms of compensation, and you have, here you have 4 companies. The Max 7s can compensate at a level that a lot of companies cannot. The new technology companies like Kavak can also compensate in the levels that industry cannot because of VC funding and growth funding and that type of funding. And then the technology companies like Softec, we can also compensate at a different level. On top of that, the shortage and the compensation, you have these same companies that I was just talking about have a technology ethos that normal industries cannot compete with. And it's an ethos of adopting new technologies and having talent at chasing, the most attractive business challenges in different industries. So we strongly believe that, all of that sounds dramatic. Now the positive is that there's a solution, right? And the solution is definitely through an approach of reskilling. What I've seen successfully from clients of mine out there is an approach where AI is a strategy, and it's a full-blown strategy that encompasses reskilling. And it has 3 or 4 main components. The first one is you need to increase AI literacy across the organization. It's not something that the IT department talks about. It's not something that middle management talks about or top management talks about. Everyone in the organization, for it to be successful, needs to really understand it. Now, when I say literacy, it's literally like all of them understanding it. Second, it's make sure that you're practitioners of the technology. This is not something that it's about literature. It's about really practicing it and putting it into adoption. The third part of it is having a core team. And that one you can hire for. Hire for a core team that it can be 1, 2, 3, 5 people that are highly specialized, and that those can work towards the thing I just mentioned. And lastly, I would say, it might sound like a conflict of interest because I'm a service provider, but I do think that successful companies need to partner. I don't think a regular company can do a successful AI transformation without partnering with Meta or with Microsoft or Google or Salesforce or Softec for that matter, right? Or Accenture or Deloitte, but you need to create your ecosystem of partners that's going to help you go through that journey. The only companies that can go at it alone are the Metas and the Kavaks of the world.
We also look for partnerships sometimes. No, I agree with you, and I think this also keeps you from being evolving as the technology goes and looking for more opportunities, more use cases. And Steph, going again with you, David is actually pointing out that we cannot just or look for organizations that want to get the AI talent needs from the market all along. So reskilling is also essential. And again, I think that governments also face the challenge more acutely or abruptly. Even I think the last report of the OECD is highlighting this enormous AI talent gap in government. So the question now is, how is Mexico addressing this? No, what's the agency's vision for creating a public workforce fluent in AI that can address both government and market needs?
Well, I think we as government are always seen as non-technological. We are always seen as that we live on like 20 years behind everything. So we are investing as a country in I think it's the most ambitious coding school in the world, because we're aiming to have more than 100,000 students. This is an online, totally free coding school. The name is Escuela Pública de Código. It's part of the agency, and it's currently giving AI courses and even basic technological courses to public servants. We have more than 2,000 public servants all around the country. And this project is, the goal of this project is to bring like a free platform for everybody that wants to be certified in technology. That if you want to work in technology, or if you work in the government and want to be part of the technology team, you can add to these courses. These courses are, of course, in Spanish, are free, are online, so you can study whenever you want. And we also see this as a sustainability case. Why? Because sometimes it's easier. For example, if you have a Conagua platform, the water distribution system platform, you better invest in giving the resources to one public servant that already works there to give maintenance to that platform, because sometimes are really easy things that a public servant can do with the knowledge, and maybe after that public servant can go to the private industry and have a job in technology with a better remuneration. So we found that investing in these online courses that are being provided by big companies like Meta, Google, IBM, that give certifications, help to sustain the government digital infrastructure, but also for public servants to go out and search for better jobs when their term is over. So it brings a lot of opportunities inside and outside the government for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for those ideas. There's a lot of challenges also, and a big bet on that. And I like that you frame it as a multi-sector approach, because that's the way to address that one. And so far we've seen how leadership but also talent are driving adoption. But the thing is that without data, none of it will work. So also looking now to data as a real fuel for AI, and how organizations manage it, protect it, or use data is going to be something important that could even determine whether AI projects are successful or not. So now going to Alejandro, finally in Quebec. You have built a data environment that is quite successful that not many other companies have. So how do you turn this unique data into your competitive advantage? And what lessons could you share with other companies, with the audience, that companies that don't even have this proprietary data, what's the path forward on getting things here?
Yes, it's a really good question, and I think things have changed a lot since the last major AI breakthrough. So data has always been valuable. I've been working in machine learning for almost 15 years now, and data has always been the fuel and the main asset that you want to build successful models. But with this LLM revolutions that came out in 2022 with ChatGPT, we're looking at a different paradigm in terms of generating and using data. Because what you're getting is the capability to reason and to teach these agentic systems to behave the way you want to behave. So the way we've looked at it at Quebec is we obviously have this data on like millions of cars and like tens of millions of auto parts, and we can predict very successfully what will fail and what we should fix and how prices will change. That's pretty cool, but that's all the older models. What we found really helpful in the past couple of years, it's how do you train your models or your systems faster than the competition. So it's not just about data management or using the data that you built in the past years. It's how can you generate more data of better quality faster starting today than your peers or competitors or other companies in the ecosystem. And this is the exact playbook that the big labs are using. They want to get their LLMs out there so more people use them, so they get more data and they can build and train better models. So I think this is great news for most companies, because if you look at it, the main advantage that a newer, younger company, as David was saying, is that they're small. They're gonna be like probably more tech savvy, and they can move faster and take more risks, but they don't have data and they don't have a surface area where they can generate more and more data every day. So it'll take a long time for them to train their models and get them to a point where they're competitive. If you look at another company like Quebec, where we interact with millions of customers globally each month, if I can harness all those conversations and train new models on those, then I can move 100 times faster than the incumbent that's moving slowly, but also than the newer companies that will take years to generate that amount of data. So everything's changed in the past 3 to 4 years. Everything will keep changing. And what's exciting is that it's not about looking at the past and that the mistakes you made some years ago where you didn't set up your data lake or you didn't invest in data. I think it's more about how you start now to generate these feedback loops, get the agents out there, start learning and improving, and obviously control all the like privacy and IP aspects of the data cycle you need to control to get like really good performing systems out there.
Thank you. Yeah, even more interesting and more challenging, but that's the thing with AI and new technologies. Gordon, so Alejandro was just sharing how to create competitive data. Yeah. Competitive advantages and be on the edge with this data. But now, perhaps for Pacto and on the sector that you are in, your challenge is kind of the opposite, right? Because working in a space where data access is restricted by compliance, as in the banks and financial sector, how can you innovate under these conditions?
Yeah, so agree with everything that was just said in terms of a good AI strategy starts with a good data strategy, and it's really the foundation that can't be overlooked. So Pacto works with a number of financial institutions in Mexico, started helping them innovate around the payment space. And quickly that brought us before the payment and after the payment as they're saying, well, how can we shorten the affiliation process from 30 days down to something like 2 days? And how can we get response times down and give better service to our customers? And so it's brought us beyond payments and into automations, which has then brought us more into the AI space itself. Banks and other sort of call it legacy business or long-standing businesses, but they don't always have the advantage of creating with the most recent technologies, the most recent data lakes. They've had these long-standing systems that need to redirect data in a relevant way towards these systems that can take action on them, right? And so first, normalizing data sets that can be consumed by automation platforms, and then feeding that into areas that perhaps it is an LLM or a smaller subset of an existing outside model that can be used in that automation, I think is key. That said, like, compliance means that every field of data usually needs to have rights attached to it, needs to have an owner, have usage expectations. And I think that area of customer privacy in this North American region is one that could benefit from some standardization, right? There was a huge, big GDPR push in the United States 5-6 years ago. Yeah, 5-6 years ago. And that's still kind of being evaluated as, do we do that here in Mexico? And so I think that is a starting point for what is the expected, what is the usage? It's still a bit gray. And then when using some of these tools, much of the time the popular tools we hear in the market may not meet compliance standards that are required to live inside a bank's private cloud, right? And so we've been looking at ways to take the automation and workflow tools that do exist in cloud, but reorient them towards private sector that can be self-hosted, can be extendable, such that sensitive data never leave their walls. It was a design constraint very similar that prior to Pacto, I was at Apple, where Apple refused to send data to any third party, and so we built an automation platform all within the walls and relied heavily on aggregates and heavily on restrictions of who can see what. So that's a model that I see happening in this industry as well. And the third part of working within a compliance regulated industry is knowing all of the decisions, knowing the logging of all those decisions, because there are times when things get it wrong. And it may not be a severe wrong, but it may just be a delay in a response or a missed response. And we need to be able to identify where, what happened, and the resolution such that it can be fixed. And I think that level of, just call it governance around the solution, is something that both has stalled its progress, but required for these larger companies to take the big leap into AI more holistically.
Okay. Thank you much for those insights. So now we've covered leadership, talent, and data, but once again, even with all of these ingredients, many organizations still get stuck in what some call the pilot trap. And they're facing challenges when AI projects look so good in the pilot test, but never achieve scale, right? So David, you have an interesting role here as an integrator. How does SoftTech help clients escape this phase of the proof of concept and actually redesign processes and make AI become embedded in their actual operations? Do you see any framework that can help them make that happen?
Yeah, first there's some, you see very different data out there about the failings of these types of AI projects. Mm-hmm. The last probably number I read was that something like 80% of AI projects fail. I was invited to have a lunch with CFOs in Monterrey, and my CFO didn't like what I said, but I said that I personally don't think it's that bad that 80% of AI projects or initiatives are failing. Mm-hmm. I think it would be bad if you're failing at 80% and not learning nothing, okay. Right? This is someone mentioned it, and these are very new technologies, mm-hmm. Right? But these are very new technologies that we are seeing that can really transform businesses. If we need to fail a lot of times to learn how to use them, that's fine. Let's just learn why are we failing, and then let's make sure that we don't fail losing a lot of money. But in all honesty, right now, it's not expensive to use these technologies. What it's expensive, it's having the talent and understanding how to go about it, but it's not expensive to use this, to start testing these technologies. The reasons that we've seen and that I've seen why companies fail the most, it's by far the most is data, right? It's already been covered. A lot of companies don't have the data. I have more in the industry that I run in Softec. I have more MDM projects than I've had in the last 10 years. And it's incredible because an MDM is master data management. It's incredible because we've been seeing MDM projects, and it's a technology, 15 years, 20 years old? And companies were not doing it. Like companies, the big bottling companies in the world were not taking care of their data to have good data. Now they want to run to the data. So I think that was the most important reason. And the one that to me is most interesting is that there's an obsession with tool model. You go and talk to every other client and what model are you using? Or should I use ChatGPT? Should I use Llama? Should I use Anthropic? And the obsession is on the tool and the model, and it's not on what am I solving for? What business pain or ache am I solving for? So that then you put the right team, right? The business team. And what are we doing to help our clients? We have a framework that it's a framework that would integrate everything from the ideation all the way to the support and maintenance of these projects or programs or solutions on AI, and it integrates the different tools out there, right? Tools for ideation, tools for building the front end of a solution, tools for development, so on and so forth. So I think it covers all of those things that we need to understand what frameworks we need to be using, and it's not only a tool and a model.
Sure. Very interesting. And yeah, I am agree with you in the learning part, but also there's a lot of investment sometimes. So to learn to fail with no cost or low cost. Then following on that, Alejandro, what can you share us from Kavak? What has it take for Kavak to push from prototypes or models into production? And again, how do you make sure your AI investment actually generates the value that you're seeking for?
Right. So I think the most important part is to know and be sure that this technology is here to stay and is going to change how we live and society as a whole, and obviously companies and how we operate. So what I see with lots of colleagues in other companies is that they are tasked by their CEOs or boards to present a proof of concept or a pilot and check if it works. And we took the opposite approach at Kavak. We realized very early on that this was the most important technological change in the past 200 to 300 years, and that this was here to stay. So it's very different how you plan and how you implement an initiative or strategy when you say it as a one-way door versus a two-way door. So if you see it as a pilot or a proof of concept, it's a two-way door, and you can get in and try to experiment a bit with AI and then come back and go back to business as usual, then most probably your pilot will fail because you're looking at it precisely as that, as a pilot. I'll flirt with it for a little while and then go back to business as usual. And it's probably like what's the least amount of time and risk I can take to like experiment with this. We took the completely opposite approach. This is a one-way door. This is going to work. If it doesn't work, it isn't because of technology. It's because we failed implementing this technology, and it's a matter of time before the foundation models are here and they are better than most humans at performing most tasks. So we decided to take this approach, and this led us in a completely different strategy in terms of building AI systems, investing in AI systems, investing in data, and also imagining what these AI systems could be in the future. And we are obsessed in building AI systems that can care for our customers and can be better than any human we could ever hire. And that's the North Star we have as a team, and that's the objective my AI team has. And that's a completely different strategy than testing a couple of prototypes, presenting them to your board, and then coming back to business as usual. So I think that's been the main lesson, and if I have a recommendation for anyone is to really have this conversation at a leadership level and decide if this is a one-way door or a two-way door for your company, and act accordingly.
That's true, very interesting. I hope everyone here is taking notes from your insights. Thank you for sharing. Before going to the final round, I'm not sure if any one of you wants to jump in any other of the topics that we covered, like talent, data, culture, leadership.
Yeah, I'd like to add a comment on the path to production and pilots versus production. I think I'm in between both of the participants' perspectives in that. I try not to think about pilots. Try to think about quick wins, right? Mm-hmm. And meaning that it's okay. I think it's okay to identify lower risk, higher value things that fit really nicely with AI and automations and pursue them, but pursue them full scale, that you're going to get it into production. It's going to be the new working order, and we're going to measure it and learn from it, right? Because I think that value proof point does a lot to say we can do this again and again and again. I do disagree with let's just try this little thing and kind of half-ass it and hope that it works and then have really murky results at the end. Yeah, I think that's a waste of time. But the piece that I would say is that it is challenging for most organizations that aren't, call it, tech native or tech forward, to do a wholesale shift and say this is where we're going. Mm-hmm. And so you may need some of these stepping stones that say, well, we've already done it here with verifying that a business exists. We can now do this with shortening our support response time. We can now do it over here. And I think the addition of those then we start talking about new platforms that we can do those faster with higher, greater confidence. And that then elevates the overall skill level in being able to execute it.
Thank you.
Well, if I can add, I think that it's not one strategy for every company. Mm. At least I would say for SoftTech, or me as a person, if I could implement that strategy that Alejandro just mentioned in my company, any company that I have, it would be a dream come true. Mm-hmm. I think that, yeah, it's true that some other companies that don't have, they're not tech savvy, they're not tech native, they are not, agile in every sense of the organization. You cannot implement a company-wide strategy like that. And yes, that's where small projects, small wins come into place, and they make sense. But again, I do think that you need to invert. It's not the technology, it's not the tool, but it's what am I solving for? And then you start solving for, and when you get those quick wins, quick hits, you get a lot of momentum. Mm-hmm. I can talk about a certain client of ours. It's a brewing company, and we build a good portion of their digital products and platforms, and they started with a big initiative, fairly big initiative for being this type of industry. But then they took, these are the pains and aches that I'm solving for. And one of the first AI projects that we did, they incremented sales by 10%. Oh. 10%. 10% of sales, it's a big impact. Mm-hmm. And now they have a big budget. And now, hopefully in a couple of years, they'll walk this one-way door. Yeah. But it is, I don't know. I just don't want everyone to come out of this room with the idea of a lot of POCs are failing. There are many super exciting projects, very successful, that are driving value, that are driving bottom line.
Thanks for that note, because yeah, that's encouraging, and people sometimes is, again, thinking about this risk and how should I invest? Should I be transforming all the processes? Should I be looking for, again, new talent, and not sure if that's going to be bringing value in? That's a big question, but these success cases, I think, are the ones more important to keep sharing all along, right?
I have another question if I'm able to ask it.
What?
So it's related to compensation, right? And so one thing that's been on my mind is how does the compensation model change in the next few years, right? We're already seeing shifts of sometimes top engineers foregoing traditional college educations and going right into the workforce. We're seeing vibe coding become a resume title, right? And what that says to me is that there are people that are focused on using the tool to drive an outcome more than maybe learning, the traditional, the theory and all of that. They're sort of cutting the line to let's apply it now, and I can apply it faster, better than the next person. So I guess a question for the panelists, how do you in your respective industries think that maybe either the software vendor model, the integration model shifts, or even the employee model shifts to outcome-based more than hours, right? Or, salaries where, because as AI takes hold more and more, hours become seconds and minutes, and then what is this traditional construct?
No, I'll jump in quickly with what we're doing and observing in our tech team. So I want a mixture of the two. So we're moving to very flat teams, very senior people empowered. I changed the definition of senior. It doesn't need to be someone with 20 years experience. It's someone that can take an idea and bring it like end to end to production. And I don't really care if they're out of high school, out of college, or have 20 years of experience. And they started working out great. And then we realized that the best mix is to like bring in some like fresh kids out of college that have been using AI for a couple of years, and that's the way they build, and like embed them in this more senior teams with like architects and more hardcore programmers, and we're seeing very, very exciting results and trying to balance both. But I do agree we're moving more to
an outcome-based model,
But you want both. You still want experience.
Yep.
We are doing exactly the same thing on the young kids. We have a group of 70 people within the innovation team that I would say they're probably between, I don't know, on average 22. And we always have like presentations with clients, right? The big clients, Fortune 500s, they go to our office, and the last part on innovation, when it's the 22-year-old kid, that's the best part. It's super engaging, and they do transform. The ideas that they come up with are incredible.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for sharing for that question, Gordon. I'm going to really move quickly to this final round. 1 minute thoughts from each one. And here I like to share with the audience the perspective that if we can overcome these barriers from talent, data, going from prototypes to pilots, and not looking at AI not as an internal tool, how can we actually make, or this is an opportunity to reshape regional competitiveness with cross-border collaborations, no? So what's the single most important thing that you think that governments, companies, academia, civic society, startups across the region, across North America, need to be doing together to unlock this full AI potential, as Alexa is saying, that is truly transformational? Who wants to start from this?
In North America?
Yeah, collaboration. Stefania? She's going to start over there.
I think that's more on my side. We need to start to talk about investment, about huge investment. If we want to fully become part of this new technology, we need better data centers. We need to invest in infrastructure. For example, the energy infrastructure that needed, energy, water, everything related with how we're going to boost this industry. And also, we in Mexico are having a historic effort in digitalization This is the first time we have a public policy in digitalization. The digitalization of the country was part of the 100 compromises of the president for the first time. Mm-hmm. And we, for the first time, have a ministry-level digital agency. Before this, the digital strategy was part of another ministry. Now it's a ministry of itself. So we are, in Mexico, we are in a historic moment where digitalization is in the center of the political agenda. It's seen, for example, as a digitalization of procedures and services, but also a public digital infrastructure investment. Yesterday, the president announced the artificial intelligence laboratory that is going to have an investment, but also we are trying to be part of the industry with our polos de bienestar. So we need to start talking about investment in everything, all the change that is needed for us to be part of this new technology.
Thank you. Anyone who wants to add up to that? In terms of collaboration across the region?
Yes, I think there's going to be a new standard on AI literacy. If we learn from history, I think we're now at the diffusion stage of a technology. So there's still innovation going on, but the main value to be captured is by adopting and diffusing and this innovation across the economy. And for that, you need people literate in this new technology. And those are new standards. Those are really investing across the region in getting like hundreds of millions of people to learn how to use the technology to build and bring it to the workforce and the economy. And I think this is where we can work together as a region, because other countries, other regions will have like way more people fluent in this technology, and that ends up like tilting the scales in favor of.
Yeah, that's a very important opportunity we should also be tackling together.
Yeah, I think the big investments that were mentioned, I think, are very important, and energy being one of the most important ones. But I would agree with all of those, but expand on the one on talent. I think it's incredible to think about. You have China, and they have like a 30-year plan on talent and on industries. You have India, and they have a 30-year plan on talent and on different industries. Europe, I don't want to be non-political here, but they don't have talent. Their population is aging very fast, or has aged already, and Mexico is one of the countries with the best bono poblacional age population in the world. So I think we really need to understand, what do we want to invest in. It's not, we cannot invest in technologies. No. We need to invest I'm going to invest in data. I'm going to invest in security. I'm going to invest in APIs, architecture, cloud, something. But we need to have a vocation by cities or by states where we put a plan in, which is private sector, education, and government. And I think I agree. I think our president has a plan and has all the push to do this. Hopefully we can achieve it.
Thank you.
I think the last thing I would add is a bit of consistency across neighboring regions, such that once there's infrastructure and once there's talent, there's less time spent on localization of this or that, right? I mean, that's a big break to using what worked well in another region to apply it in a different, and it's often a time of just figuring it out and working with legal and policy and all that. So as much as there can be shared standards, I think that will further accelerate the benefits from these investments.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to pick one quick question from the audience, because I don't want to feel ignored. And if anyone here wants to jump in. Considering how quickly AI models evolve and how each generation is exponentially more powerful, what's a realistic time horizon for long-term planning in this field?
Adopting it as fast as you can, I would say.
Just as fast?
It's going to keep changing, but the lesson learned is going to help with the next model and the next model and the next model.
So thank you very much. I think there's one clear takeaway from this conversation, is that AI transformation isn't just about the technology. It's also about culture, leadership, collaboration. And so I think it seems that the future of North America competitiveness in this area will depend on how we learn, we build, and we innovate together. Thank you very much for all of your insights, and thank you for the audience for joining us.